Okay, hello. This is the concluding integrity for the EDD 810 class. I realize you've had a lot to do here in the class, and I appreciate that. I'm contributing one more thing to that, but this conclusion is important to me, and I hope you get a chance to have a look at it. Because I think it's a bit of a summary that may be useful. So I'm going to walk through this PowerPoint and um, hopefully get it posted in a place that you can see it. So this is the conclusion of the course. To consider critically is the various sorts of awarenesses that Goleman and Salovey contribute to how we think about being together and answering the question of who is the teacher. So your work concluding in this class has to do with how you would approach and construct a plan which integrates emotion, intellect, and action. And it also involves asking the question now, going forward as we conclude the course, what are your responsibilities to society, which I think is ultimately the bigger question. So how do power relations fit in here? Power, truth, right, knowledge. Lewis Carroll using Alice, Humpty and Dumpty and the unbirthday. So Humpty says, having just proved that it's 364 times better to celebrate your unbirthday. There's glory for you. And Alice says, I don't know what you mean by glory. And Humpty says, of course you don't till I tell you. I meant there's a nice knockdown argument for you. And Alice says, but glory doesn't mean a nice knockdown argument. And Humpty Dumpty says, when I use the word, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. Alice said, the question is whether you can make words mean so many different things. And Humpty says, the question is, which is to be the master? That's all. So from Crivero and Wilson, adult education has a significant role in the distribution not only of knowledge, but also of social, economic, and political power. You've seen this in all of the presentations from Miriam and Grace that we've been looking at, and particularly the last two this past week. We can no longer believe, or pretend to believe, that's my line, that adult education is a neutral activity in this continual struggle for knowledge and power. At the heart of our work as educators, we need to keep our focus on the central political and ethical question of who benefits from and who should benefit from the programs, practices, and policies of adult education. We have to see the brokering of knowledge and power as our central role in such practice, and recognize that adult education is a significant site in the struggle for knowledge and power. There's a reciprocal relationship between adult education and power, and adult educators are social activists. So Crivero and Wilson say there are three primary tasks we need to keep in mind as adult educators. We are social change actors, knowledge and power brokers, and we recognize the politics of possibility and our role in it. So there's finally an image that I think is a very powerful one that reflects a great deal of our work, but that isn't in any of our writings specifically for the class. But I mentioned this before, that I wanted to share this with you because I think it's such a powerful concept, art. It just hits on so many cylinders of what I think is important here, including sort of affective, cognitive, and so on. So it's a concept that signifies cultural, political, and epistemological border crossings. It's an icon. We know, don't we, that the current assumed center, that is the Euro-American, will not hold. The product of the transfer of the cultural and spiritual values of one group to another. As Anzaldúa, and this writing here is coming from her work also in the Cervero book, as cited within the Cervero book. She moves between cultures. She may experience multiple, often conflicting messages about who she is or how she should act. This is a writer, and at the end of this recording in PowerPoint, I have a couple links for you to look at some of her work. She talks about La Mestiza, and in her work she's referring to herself as a person who, you know, has many parts, as a woman, as a combination of Latino and Native ethnic backgrounds. She's lesbian, and so she sits at the center of all sorts of complicated identities. And I think this is just really a powerful image. Between an understanding of her own multi-layered history, inseparable from colonialism and imperialism, and understanding how different cultures clash within her many selves. The complex interplay of differences within each of the cultures in which she temporarily dwells, each with contradictory and relational subject positions. And so these people, these mestiza people, people like her with multiple identities, people perhaps like us, have lives full of pain, conflict, and contradiction, but particularly these mestiza people, they harbor the potential for something else. La Mestiza moves in the world and integrates. That focal point or fulcrum, that juncture where the mestiza stands, is where the phenomenon tend to collide. This assembly is not one where severed or separated pieces merely come together, nor is it a balancing of opposing powers. A mestiza consciousness, a consciousness of the borderlines, political, cultural, epistemological borders, as well as actual borders, that turns this pain and ambivalence into the possibility of uniting all that is separate, simultaneously single and plural, located in a theorization of being on the border that might provide a blueprint for transforming the topography, the landscape of power, into a source of creative energy that transcends divisions and fragmentation. Niebuhr declared, man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary. So go out from the course, know power, communicate effectively, listen for subjugated knowledge, author yourselves, continue to author yourselves, go well, be well, and thank you. Please, I hope you get a chance to look at the two videos related to Anzaldúa.